Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. I've got Dr. Chari. She is my personal physician. She is a functional medicine MD, but trust me, she is not a part of what I call the mainstream medical merry-go-round. She doesn't push all those protocols with the hogwash. She stood up against it. And today we are going to uncover the truth about cholesterol. I am calling this video Is Everything You Know About Cholesterol Wrong? And you are going to set the record straight. So, welcome back.
Thank you, Peggy. It's always great to be here.
Well, friends, I need to let you know Dr. Chari and I were chuckling before we came on the air because we are both currently in Florida and our air conditioning went out at the same time. So if you see us sweating and fanning, we're in different parts of the state. So I don't know if this is statewide or what, but we are committed to truth. We are committed to health. We are committed to getting you the facts, and we are doing this interview for you. So, Dr. Chari, before we dive in, there might be some new viewers on board. If you would give us a snapshot as to what a functional medicine doctor is, what you specialize in. And then, friends, stay tuned because Dr. Chari does have a very special offer for all of my healthy Americans.
Absolutely, Peggy. Well, as Peggy mentioned, my name is Dr. Chari, and I'm a medical doctor and practice integrative medicine or functional medicine. And what that basically is having a natural, holistic approach to health and wellness, where I look at all aspects of a person, their nutrition, their diet, their lifestyle, and I address the underlying symptoms and the root causes of their medical conditions, but with a natural, holistic approach. So I address their nutrition, I address their lifestyle. I also customize programs for each person because each and every one of us is unique. It's not cookie cutter. So, in that way, we can then reverse the symptoms, reverse the underlying causes, and treat the underlying root issues for each person, which is can vary person to person. And so they can lead a life of fulfillment, happiness, and ultimately have the energy to function in our day to day, which is, there's so much happening in our world at this point. We need all the support that we can get.
That's the tip that I always give my viewers because they'll inevitably ask me, what can I do about what's going on in the world? And the number one thing to do is to keep yourself healthy and focus on things that bring you enjoyment in your life. And when we're not feeling well or we're falling into that mainstream medical merry-go-round where somebody, in fact, I wanted to find a meme where there's an individual goes to the doctor, a man goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, your cholesterol levels are too high. I'm going to put you on a statin. And it's kind of like a little cartoon. And he says, well, I feel fine, doctor. He said, well, you need this. Come back and see me in 3 months. He goes back and he says, you know what? I feel so tired. I don't want to exercise. I've got aches and pains. And because he's been on this drug now for 3 months. And the doctor says, well, then I better, up your dose. And then it shows him coming 6 months later. And I think he's in a wheelchair. I mean, it was a bit of an exaggeration. But the point being, I think people, not my healthy Americans, but individuals who don't know better will sometimes fall into this merry-go-round where they'll start on one drug and then it leads to another and they're feeling worse and worse and worse. And just a quick personal story before we dive into the questions. I want everybody to know that I actually did a personal consultation with Dr. Chari. So did my husband. This was a couple of years ago. We are living our fittest, healthiest life. In an upcoming video, I'm going to have a picture of my before and after, Dr. Chari, because Pastor David and I have a picture of us a few years ago in California before we started working with you. You can't believe, well, you probably could, but I could not believe how different we look and feel after just a few changes. But the point I wanted to focus on was when you looked at my cholesterol levels, you said, well, the test is showing that they're out of range. And you said, but don't worry about that. and and I was like, oh, that's good news. And as my viewers know, I'm not a person that runs to the doctor or anything, but I wanted to take advantage of just feeling better. I was curious whether I had some food allergies or sensitivities. I had had some nerve pain that was kind of a lingering. And so I wanted to see where I was and how I could feel better. But why weren't you all that concerned about? Well, I guess we should start. What is cholesterol? And then why weren't you so concerned about my numbers?
Definitely, Peggy. Well, first of all, I want your viewers and listeners to know that we all need to celebrate cholesterol, not
Yay!
vilify it, not criminalize it, but celebrate it. And the reason is cholesterol is made by every cell and needed by every cell in our body for several reasons. Number one, it's the cell membrane, or you can consider it like the coat of your cell or the fence of your cell. It helps the good things and nutrients to come into your cell and helps get rid of the waste and toxic materials. It's also, as Dr. Bruce Lipton said, it's the brain of our cell. It's also where all the keyholes are, where all the different hormones attach to what are called receptors. So we need that cell membrane. We need the coat of our cell to be as healthy as possible. And basically, cholesterol is like a waxy substance. It's made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen and arranged in a certain manner. And every mammal, in the breast milk produces cholesterol in the breast milk. There's cholesterol in the breast milk, just like there's cholesterol in an egg yolk for a chicken. Why is that? Because we need it for our growth, for our development, for everything. And in fact, we need it for our hormones too. We need it to make estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and other stress hormones as well, and cortisol, aldosterone, all these different hormones. We need cholesterol. And then we need it for our immune system. It's very important for our immune system, for preventing infections and keeping our immune system nice and healthy, which is needed now more than ever. And also, when our liver creates this cholesterol and it's circulating in our bloodstream, when we go out into the sun and the sun hits our skin, it converts that cholesterol into vitamin D. And most of us are deficient in vitamin D. And when we're low in vitamin D, it can affect our heart health, our immune system, our blood sugar balance, and so much more. So we need healthy levels of vitamin D, which again eventually comes from cholesterol. And then on top of that, cholesterol is made again by our liver, and then that cholesterol is added to bile. And bile is what our liver produces and then stores that bile in a little pocketbook called our gallbladder. And then that gallbladder releases that bile, which has cholesterol, into our small intestine, which comes right after our stomach, the first part of the small intestine. And then that bile helps us break down fats and emulsify fats. So we need it for our digestion. And then also we need it for our brain and for our nervous system. Our brain is basically water and fat and wax. Is basically 70, our brain is 75% water and then about 60% fat, like omega 3s, omega 6s, and other omegas, and very complex lipids. And also, it's made up of proteins, carbs, and fats. So, we need cholesterol for our brain health. This is so critical. I can't emphasize this enough. And our liver makes about 75% of our cholesterol, and the rest, we get from our diet as well.
This is just fascinating, Dr. Chari. I was making a few notes as you were talking. So, cholesterol is essential. You said it's the coat of our cells, it's the brain of our cells. Our brain is basically made of cholesterol or, and fat and water. It made me think about being dehydrated and why that can cause headaches too. But what I really was thinking about was the war against the sun and how we're told to slather our body with sunscreen. And, I'm in the sun all the time because I swim, I walk, I garden, I do these things outdoors. But I wear a hat and I wear sleeves or I go in the shade. I don't like to put the chemicals on my skin because I don't want to absorb the, artificial chemical sunscreen. But then you just told us that we need the sun to interact with cholesterol in our skin in order to create vitamin D, which you've told me has also acts like a hormone. So reducing cholesterol then seems to me, a non-doctor, that it's going to have a negative impact on all of these other areas of our life. So, but we're told all the time, if you have high cholesterol, you're going to have a heart attack. So what's up with that?
Yes, there's so many myths that we need to clarify, Peggy. My goodness, it's an oversimplification of when they talk about cholesterol in that manner, because we have to trace back and actually see what is causing the problem. They've made it the good cholesterol, the bad cholesterol,
Right.
It's like the good guy, bad guy.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
so that's not true at all. It's actually ridiculous, to be honest with you. And so there's different types of cholesterol, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that because that's really, really important. So, a lot of people with heart disease may have elevated cholesterol, but a lot of people with heart disease have low levels of cholesterol. And what they're finding out now, Peggy, is that low levels of cholesterol is actually more dangerous than having high levels, because with low levels of cholesterol, you can affect the brain. They may have issues with their memory, cognition, dementia. It affects their immune system. They may have a suppressed immune system. It'll affect their ability to make hormones, and the list goes on and on and on. So it's not just high levels of cholesterol that's the issue. And looking at the different types, there's LDL, they call it LDL cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, there's triglycerides. And I'm going to kind of give an analogy of all of this. So they've made LDL to be the bad cholesterol. It's not bad at all. We need to celebrate LDL,
Great.
just like
Great
we
to
need to
hear.
celebrate cholesterol. And again, all animals make LDL. And so, what is actually LDL? I want you to think of LDL like an Uber or a taxi or a bus that takes on a lot of passengers. And these passengers include different vitamins. They're called fat soluble vitamins, like vitamins A, D, E, and K. Another passenger on board the LDL bus is coenzyme Q10, which is very needed for our cells to generate energy and very important for heart health. And then LDL is an antioxidant on top of that. And very important for our immune system, but that's not talked about either. And so these LDLs, these buses or Ubers, which are in our liver, then also transport cholesterol. And they transport cholesterol throughout the body and say, okay, cholesterol, there's some inflammation over there. We're going to drop you off so you can put your soothing, waxy balm where there's inflammation to decrease the inflammation. So LDL is saying, why am I the bad guy? I'm just the messenger. I'm just here to
Wow.
deliver cholesterol. I'm not the bad guy. So it's trying to help us to decrease inflammation. And so there's different types of LDL. There's large, kind of bouncy, buoyant LDL cholesterols, which you can consider like beach balls. They just bounce from here to there, but don't cause any trouble. And then there's the small density LDL cholesterols, which are tiny, but they're important too. Very important. They get into nooks and crannies. Let's say there's inflammation in the arteries, to get in there to decrease that inflammation as well. So it's so complex. It's almost like we need to do this as a two-part, because there's particle size, there's all these other factors that are part of it. But the important thing and the most important point is to know that LDL is very important to transport cholesterol from our liver as a bus to where it's needed. And then HDL is another bus that says, okay, cholesterol, you did your job. Jump in the bus, jump in the back seat if it's an Uber, and I'm taking you back home to the liver where you'll be recycled. So it's like breathing in, breathing out, day and night. We need both, and both have their functions. And then there's triglycerides, which they say may even be more important in looking at heart health than even cholesterol. And that's elevated if people, are on high sugar diets, a lot of processed foods, if there's insulin resistance, what they call metabolic syndrome, other issues like that. That can be actually even more of an issue. So it's much more complex than we can imagine.
I love your analogies. The bouncing beach balls and the Uber, that makes so much sense. And God didn't make a mistake in the function of our body. And it seems to me that some scientist figured out a way to measure these substances in the blood and then to manipulate them with drugs. And I know a few personal stories where somebody went to the doctor, and my understanding, we'll talk about this, but my understanding is that these drugs can affect females. Well, they affect everybody, but in this case, relatively healthy woman, didn't go to the doctor with any concerns, but the cholesterol was shown to be elevated, got on these drugs, and very shortly thereafter, she had like had some kind of problem with her tendons, and come to find out that's one of the side effects is kind of um, you know problems with the muscles and tendons. I know you're going to talk about that, but it's sad because I know personal stories where somebody was put on that and then they started having the brain fog, and they're like, oh, you have dementia. No, you don't have dementia. You're lacking in cholesterol and CoQ10 that was suppressed through this drug. So it just gets into that cycle again. And I'm really glad to hear that there's no bad guy, and we need to celebrate that. So um, I think we covered it a little bit, but we're told eat a low fat diet, keep your cholesterol down. I used to tell my husband, the day is going to come when they're going to have cholesterol supplements where you're going to take a supplement to increase your cholesterol. Are we at that point yet, or are the doctors still telling everybody to keep their cholesterol down?
It's true. See, because Peggy, what happens is everyone's just look in the medical profession looking at the number, but what we have to step back and say, okay, why is there higher levels of LDL? Why is there higher levels of total cholesterol? What is going on in the process that is creating this inflammation that is causing the body to want to produce more LDL cars to be able to transport the LDL, to be able to transport the cholesterol throughout the body to where it's needed to decrease that inflammation. So then we have to take a step back and take a step back. When we address the root causes of inflammation, that will make the huge difference. And so, there's so many underlying reasons for what causes inflammation. But right now, Peggy, what everyone is talking about is, especially in the functional medicine field, the integrative medicine field, is they're talking about insulin resistance as being really one of the key causes for why we're having this inflammation and why we're seeing what we're seeing as far as inflammation, elevated cholesterol, and kind of the whole cascade from there. And that's really where we said the coating of your cell has these keyholes or receptors. So just going to take an example for the pancreas. Pancreas produces insulin. The insulin goes down to the cell and tries to attach itself in the keyhole, knocks on the door and says, "Cell, let me in." And let me in so that I can then bring sugar into you, cell, so that we can create some energy here. And the cell says, I don't recognize you, I don't know who you are, and doesn't let it in. And then the body instructs the pancreas, make more insulin, make more insulin. So, but what is causing the cell to not recognize the insulin, or for the insulin not to make a good fit? You can think of it like, when we put keys and keyholes that are a little grimied up a little bit with grease or so on. So toxins can affect how the different hormones, whether it's insulin or thyroid hormones or female and male hormones, attach to the cell. And so now what they're finding is it's actually a problem with toxins in our receptors or the keyholes that are creating problems. And why are we seeing that? Is we're seeing it because of a lot of the processed foods. We're seeing it from the seed oils, as we spoke about before. We're seeing it from all the toxins, including microplastics and heavy metals, which we've spoken about before. All of this creates this issue, which then causes more inflammation. Then the body has to release and produce and absorb more cholesterol from the food and create more cholesterol from the liver to be able to decrease that inflammation. And so a lot of processed foods and sugary foods cause this. Also trans fats, which is what we spoke about before when we we're talking about the seed oils as well, which are like hydrogenated oils, which are in all the processed foods, which create a tremendous amount of inflammation. And so, but we can decrease that inflammation using healthy fats, which we'll speak about in a little bit. But again, a lot of this goes back to diet and lifestyle. We can make different choices and see different results.
Well, it seems like a lot of people, hopefully not my audience, but there are people who don't want to make those choices, and they love and respect and want to follow exactly what the doctor in the white coat tells them when it comes to getting these prescriptions. So why are these statins being, I mean, I'm shocked that in this day and age, they're still being prescribed so widely. I, I do they actually work? I mean, what's going on with these?
Yes, they're Definitely, Peggy, prescribed very widely still. And it's taking time. It always takes time for change in the medical profession. And that's on the very unfortunate part. And so, what statins do is they lower the cholesterol by lowering an enzyme that made in the liver called HMG CoA reductase. And that's the enzyme that helps you make cholesterol. Now, our bodies naturally, let's say our cholesterol is too high, will do the same thing naturally. Or if our cholesterol is too low, it'll, affect that enzyme as well. So it's naturally doing that. But here's the problem. When we're forcefully trying to do this with a medication, is that this enzyme is also needed to produce coenzyme Q10. And what's interesting, Peggy, what I found out is that years ago, statin drugs automatically had coenzyme Q10 with that. But that was taken out. Why was that taken out? And so coenzyme Q10 is very, very important for our muscles, and our heart is basically one big muscle. And we need for all the muscles in our body. So when people are taking these statin drugs, which is lowering their coenzyme Q10 level, that can affect how well the heart pumps, which can, create or lead to issues like heart failure. It can also then create a lot of muscle aches, like you were speaking about. And they're finding now, and especially in women, that let's say women who take these statin drugs, they have higher rates of diabetes and muscle issues. And so, and also these drugs can affect our liver, can affect our kidneys. And so that's why they have to monitor the liver enzymes. And here's another thing, and this is very, very significant, is the increased incidence of dementia, memory problems, confusion, and especially in the elderly, this can lead to a whole host of other problems, especially as they're on what they call polypharmacy, a whole other lot of medications as well. And there was one doctor who said that one of his patients was having problems with speaking, expressing himself, being able to communicate. They call that aphasia, which we normally see with strokes or brain injury, but he didn't have either a stroke or brain injury. So we asked him, when were you started on a statin? He said, oh, well, his wife told, it was about 3 years ago. And then he said, when did your husband start having these problems? And she said, oh, about 2.5 years ago. So after stopping the statin drugs, he was able to speak normally.
Fantastic.
You know what I mean? And so we're seeing all these like memory centers for people with having issues with dementia, Alzheimer's, just the the number of centers are exploding now. It's unbelievable. It's so sad to see that. And this can potentially be one of the causes is because of how these statin drugs are affecting the brain health, which we mentioned is our brain needs that cholesterol. And I just wanted to mention as well a couple of studies, which are very important. And one of the studies from, there was a doctor, Jack Wolfson, and he's a cardiologist, also practiced integrative cardiology. And he said there was a study back in 2005 in the Neurology Journal that showed that people with the highest levels of total cholesterol have the lowest risk of late life dementia. So the
Wow.
highest cholesterol levels, they found the lowest risk of late life dementia. So high cholesterol levels in late life means better brain health. And
Yes.
that's very important. And there were a couple of their studies which were very significant. One was the AF CAPS TEX CAPS test study, excuse me. It's again AF CAPS TEX CAPS. And that was done in the late 1990s. And he said that they found more people died who had taken statin drugs. And then there's an all hat trial published in 2017, which said that, and this is very significant, where people aged 65 and older for primary prevention, which means they've never had a stroke or a heart attack and were given statin drugs as prevention, had an 18% higher risk of dying with the statin group. And if they were older than 75, there was a 34% higher risk of dying, and that was shocking. And so, this need everyone needs to take a look. And even some of the statin drugs have what they said of fluorine in them.
Oh,
and like fluoride and how what it can do to the bones and the brain. And these drugs are fat soluble, which means they can get through the blood-brain barrier. And so these are things we really need to be aware of and pay attention to. That's critical.
that is really something. I'm making a few notes because we'll have to have a show on fluoride. We're going to have a show on insulin resistance. But what I'm taking away from this is it's the cholesterol is not the culprit. There are different things, many things involved in the complex functions of our body. We've got inflammation, we've got the insulin resistance, we've got drugs that people are taking that actually cause more problems. So I think I'm hearing the questions of our audience, which are, oh my gosh, I'm on that drug, or I know someone who's on that drug. And so I want to encourage everybody to go to charicenter.com. And I'll also have a link in the description box below. You can have a complimentary 15-minute consultation with Dr. Chari, talk about what's going on. She can point you in the right direction. She's licensed to practice medicine in California and Florida, if I have that correct, but she can get you pointed in the right direction. And I know that one of the things you help is with this, getting people in a natural, healthy lifestyle off the prescription medication. So is there hope for people that, are on these drugs? Should they just throw them away today? But probably not. I mean, what should they do? What's the first aid right now? If someone's like, uh-oh, I need to make a change.
Absolutely. Know that there always is hope, and nature always has solutions. That we all need to know. And so, yes, because whether a person is on statin drugs or their doctor has told them they need to be on statin drugs, they need to speak with their doctor about other side effects, which can include also fatigue and digestive issues and all of the other issues that we just spoke about. But yes, we can definitely, definitely reverse the underlying causes of that inflammation, which are elevating that cholesterol level, and keep it in a range that would be very healthy for the person. We don't want to drastically unnecessarily reduce it as well, but see what level would be appropriate for that person for them to to function optimally. And so it gets back to the fundamentals of a healthy lifestyle that can never be replaced. And that's always dismissed. But if a person is not changing their lifestyle, wants to eat all the processed foods, not exercise, not get some sun and fresh air, then they'll use a statin drug and, unfortunately may see side effects with that. However, for your audience, who I know, Peggy, as I always tell you, they are so advanced, so ahead of the curve. They know exactly what's going on. And so this is so important to know that there's several steps and several things that you can do that are very empowering.
Yep. So. Mhm.
One is absolutely looking at the amount of sugar they're taking into their diet and swapping that sugar and processed foods for whole foods that ideally cook a lot of foods at home as much as you possibly can. And if you go out to eat, make healthy choices. And eating organic is very, very important because of the amount of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, genetically modified foods that we're exposed to. That's creating a lot of havoc in our digestive system, creating inflammation in the body, and leading to a whole cascade of effects, plus all of those toxins, how they affect our liver, how they affect our arteries, how they affect all the organs in our body. So eating organic as much as possible, buying food, from your farmers markets, supporting your local farmers, your local health food stores is key. Growing produce at home, if you're able to, it's all worth it. And even though it may be a little bit more money putting out, but again, that's an investment in your health. So sugar plays a big role.
And think about, do you want to spend that money now, the time and effort to stay healthy, or do you want to spend that money later, being sick? So that's something that my husband and I are always talking about, that we want to invest in our health, even if it does cost a little bit more in time or resources, like do it now instead of having to do it later and being sick. So, all right. So what are the other things on the list?
Absolutely. And just as you said, Peggy, that's saying pay now or pay
Yeah,
later.
exactly.
And then eating anti-inflammatory fats. So, as we were speaking before on your other program where we were talking about seed oils, definitely avoid corn oil,
Mm.
soybean oil, canola oil, and all of these genetically modified, extremely highly processed oils and seed oils, and instead use olive oil. And ideally, look on the bottle to see if that olive oil comes from one particular place. Because if on the bottle it says it comes from Italy, Portugal, and several other countries, they say that the quality of the oils may not be, of that olive oil, may not be as good. But if it says it's all from one particular place, then, that's ideally the best, whether it's from Italy or from, someplace in America as well. That's the same idea. And so, and the cold pressed olive oil, and then also avocado oil, grass fed butter, ghee, all of these oils are so healthy, so beneficial for our bodies,
And
and they actually decrease inflammation.
did you mention coconut oil in that list? Is that
And
also
yes,
okay?
another one, yes, thank you. Another is coconut oil. Coconut oil is very important for our health and actually, frankly, for our brain and for our nervous system. And there's a state in India, Kerala, they eat a lot of coconut products and cold pressed coconut products and coconut, they call them sauces or chutneys and all of these different, and they have beautiful skin, beautiful hair, and they're brilliant. They are so brilliant. And that's, again, the power of coconut oil as well. And, you can mix these different oils and, each of them has their own unique flavor and taste, but and you can get the benefits of all of them because it's like carrots and broccoli. Each different oil will have its own unique,
Oh,
vitamins, minerals, and other fatty acid properties that'll be very beneficial.
great. Oh, well, we've got the food then, eating at home, having those healthy oils. What else can we do to decrease our inflammation?
Definitely is moving daily because a lot of us are stuck in front of our computers all day, which is natural and it's just part of the life right now in the 21st century. So it's all the more important that before you start your work day and at the end of your day as well, to go outside and get some fresh air and walk. Because a lot of times we go from our home to a gym where we're inside again. So it's really important that, and you can, of course, exercise and, weights and treadmill and things like that are, of course, wonderful. But try to get outside as much as possible and get some fresh air. That is so, so important, which again goes to another point, which is getting the sunshine. And Peggy, back in the day, there were healing centers around the world, and especially in Europe, where all the people would do there is get into their bathing suits and lie in the sun all day, and they were getting cured of all of these different medical conditions.
Sounds great.
Right? That's not like paradise, right?
Yes, yes.
Well,
Wow. Well,
that is how
sun, look at our plants. I mean, we need the sun. It is important. It's essential for our life.
it's
Wow.
absolutely essential for a life. And if you go out in the sun in the morning, it also helps you release more melatonin at night so that you'll even sleep better, which is amazing. And being out in the sun, there's different rays from the sun, infrared frequencies, and so many different ranges of frequencies that the sun emits that are so beneficial for our bone health, for developing our muscles as well as for our immune system and pretty much every condition you can imagine will be benefited from going out in the sun. So that's critical.
Oh, that's fantastic. I have my little doggy here next to me, and I get up early every morning. I'm out in the early morning sun because I take her for a walk, and she's on such a regular schedule that I am now as well, in terms of I go to bed earlier and I wake up earlier because there's no negotiating with her. So it actually has helped my sleep. And I think the early morning sun, as you say, you're getting different rays, and it has really helped to regulate my sleep, which is
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Well, I'll
wonderful.
have to have a session just on sleep in an upcoming video as well. I've got my whole list of topics here for you.
Well, that's fantastic because sleep again is another way to help reduce inflammation in the body. And a key, actually, and what I found works really well is, in addition, just as we were speaking about going out in the morning, because that'll help you release more melatonin at night. The other key factor is if you go for a walk after dinner, you will enhance how your muscles use up that sugar from the food that you just have eaten.
No.
And so that will help with the insulin resistance. And on top of that, it'll release stress from the day, from the workday, we just to unwind, and you'll have better quality of sleep. So that's another issue. And so sleeping and just trying to follow the clock as much as possible. Of course, it's not ideal. I know because we are all working late, but as much as possible, an hour before you sleep, try to unwind by turning off your computers, keeping your cell phones away, playing nice music, and then going to your bedroom to just sleep and follow your body's rhythm. Because when it's telling you you're sleepy, follow that and try to sleep as much as possible, whenever possible.
Yeah.
That will also help.
No computer in the bedroom, no TV, none of that stuff. And so my advice is everybody should get a dog because you're going to be walking after dinner and in the morning and after lunch, and it actually is it helps to create that healthy walking and sleep and wake cycle. Do we have more on your
Absolutely.
list, Dr. Chari, for the?
Yes, and so
Okay.
also add colorful array of vegetables to your diet, meaning, and actually I should say to your food program. It's not a diet, to your food program, and of all the different colors of the rainbow, because each of these veggies will have a lot of different antioxidants that, based on their color of that vegetable, whether it's beta carotene or different minerals and vitamins. So, and that way you get a variety as well. And then also root vegetables like turmeric. It's good to cook with a little bit of pinch of turmeric and ginger. Both are anti-inflammatory, decrease levels of total cholesterol, increase levels of HDL cholesterol, which is the bus that picks up cholesterol and takes it back to your liver and cleans out the blood. And it also has many other incredible nutritional benefits. And ladies, dark chocolate. We can have a little bit of dark chocolate here and there because it has different minerals and different properties that are also anti-inflammatory. And then onions. Onions have quercetin, which helps to, and capers do as well, which helps to decrease inflammation in our bodies as well. And then eat low glycemic fruits, which is, like berries, different types of berries, because they don't spike up the blood sugar as much. And green apples, though it's not as flavorful maybe as red apples, but, it's better on the blood sugar. And then for meat, also really try to eat grass-fed meats, free range, pasture-raised meats, animals who are, raised in these kind of environments, which is healthy for them, less stressful for them, and then, ends up being for us as well. And so you can support your local farmers as well and local health food stores and getting high quality meats. That's very important considering everything that's happening in this day and age to our produce and to the animals.
Oh, absolutely. This is such a wealth of information, Dr. Chari. I really appreciate you clearing up these myths. And as the title is, right, everything you know about cholesterol may be wrong. So you've brought us so much information about how important cholesterol is, the different types, they're both essential, and how these drugs can actually backfire by not only reducing the cholesterol, but that CoQ10. Is it a good idea just like for people to take a CoQ10 supplement? I mean, is that pretty simple or does that require
Yes.
a blood test or something?
Absolutely. I think we all need to take coenzyme Q10. I think it's very important. And Peggy, it's also interesting in Europe, in addition to the muscle meats, they eat organ meats. And, like, and it may sound gross, but when they eat, the heart of animals that actually has a lot of natural coenzyme Q10. So I found that interesting when my friends who, from Europe, they were saying, yeah, we eat a lot of organ meats and really in addition to muscle meat. And I said, oh, that's very interesting. And there was a patient who back in, almost 25 years ago, one of my first patients, she came to see me and she was in her late 70s And she said that when she was born, she had a specific type of heart disease where her doctors were telling her mother, oh, your daughter is not going to survive very long and there's nothing we can really do. And then her mom took her to a country doc who said, just give your daughter this heart, the from a pig, give it the heart, and told her how to make it into a type of food. And her mom gave her that, and she was healed. It reversed, and she was, oh my God, so fit, so energetic, like you can't imagine. So I'm not saying people have to eat organ meats, but what I'm trying to say is that definitely take coenzyme Q10. Definitely, follow the principles of healthy living, eating at home. That makes a really tremendous difference in your health and overall well-being. And the other thing is, when we talk about heart disease and look at what is causing heart disease, it goes back again, like we were saying, to inflammation. Then your body's laying down cholesterol to decrease that inflammation. Because cholesterol is sticky, then when different minerals pass by in those arteries, they get stuck there. And then the lining of the arteries also makes like a waxy substance to protect it. So that's where the so-called plaque buildup comes from. The cholesterol is just trying to decrease the inflammation that was there, which can be from toxins, from, different infections, and even stress can do that because that raises stress hormones that can lead to inflammation, blood sugar elevation, and all of these things. So cholesterol is just a byproduct of that. So if we take a step back and address the underlying root causes, that can make all the difference in the world.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chari, for all of this detailed information. Friends, remember, you can go to charicenter.com, and I'll have a link for you in the description box below. Dr. Chari is very graciously offering a complimentary phone call. So you can give her a call, find out, let her know what's on your mind, find out what direction she can point you in, and then be sure that you share this video, get on my free Substack, peggyhall.substack.com. And then, Dr. Chari, we're going to have you back next month. I would love to talk about insulin resistance. And that's a topic that's on people's minds. And maybe along with that, a few tips on what people can do for their sugar cravings. Since we know we want to reduce the amount of sugar we eat, you gave some tips about low glycemic fruits, and maybe there's a few other things that will help keep those sugar cravings away. So friends, be sure that you stay tuned and check out all of the information Dr. Chari has. She has a newsletter where you can get your free tips for a healthy lifestyle. So we're here at the Healthy American, so it's a perfect match. Thank
Oh,
you so much,
absolutely.
Dr. Chari. We'll see you
Oh,
again next
thank you,
month.
Peggy.